All right. Good afternoon, or the first part of the afternoon to everybody. Thanks for showing up. This is going to be our first sort of lunch and learn on hats. So if you do have any questions, feel free to do the Q&A or the chat. Just let us know what they are. If I need to stop in between something, I can. So today it's going to be me, Megan, and Jordan. Jordan's our AI engineer or AI automation engineer here. He uses hats just as much as I do. Megan also uses it a lot. So what I foresee this happening today is I'm just going to talk to you about the platform, just the basics on what you're seeing, where you can go, how it's used, that type of thing. Each week we're going to do another lunch and learn, and we may review a little bit from the last week before, as new people may join us, but then we're going to go a little bit further in use cases, in building agents and building workflows, what the difference is between those two. And then hopefully the more we go through this, the more questions you're going to have. And you may say, hey, I want to build this. Can we do that during this? But I foresee this coming sort of a lab and a real questions and oriented type thing. However, we'll see how this format goes. But hopefully you get something out of this. So feel free to ask questions, and I'll try to get those answers, or we'll see what happens, and we'll ask AI to answer those questions. Uh, so let's just go through the first thing, and I'm going to share my screen, and we'll show you what this platform looks like if you haven't already logged in. If you haven't logged in and you have questions about why maybe you're having problems with logging in, if you'll let us know in the chat, we'll create a ticket, and me or Jordan will see if we can't give you a call back after this and get you logged in. But first things first, let's share my screen. And take my beautiful mug off the screen. All right, first things first, before I get into this, can you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, awesome. Because I don't know how many times that's happened where I've just gone in and about 10 minutes in, somebody says, oh, by the way, we can't see your screen. So the first time you're going to log into Hatz, and that URL is up here above, realit.hatz.ai. And you log in. It's going to, if you haven't logged in yet, it's going to ask you to set up the account. You can set up MFA, all that, but this is where you start. And where I like to go and I spend most of my time is in chat itself. So you just click on chat. And this is if you've used ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. This is where we spend most of our time. It acts pretty much no different than how you're using those same LLMs today. And you're going to hear me say LLM. If I say anything that needs explanation like LLM, just say, "Hey Donald, you need to tell us what that means." So an LLM stands for large language model, and that's what those are. So Claude, GPT, Gemini, they're all large language models. Okay. Um, so it asks just like any of them. The difference now, one of the big differences in this is you can choose whatever you want. Now they do have something called an auto model selection that you can turn on. In fact, most of you probably already have that defaulted. Now I turned it off for the sake of this demo. And a lot of times I got to the point where I stopped using auto model selection because I know what tool and what ones I want to use. But if you're unsure what one does the best, then go ahead and you might leave that on. But I want to show something about the models. So if I click on, let me slow down, click the down arrow and you look at my models, you can click view all, and it's going to show you all the models that Hatz has. And it has over 72. I don't know what the count is right now. Jordan, do you know off the top of your head?
No, not off the top. They add new ones every week.
Yeah, let's say the last I looked it was 72, but it may be more than that. And that's a lot. So that's a lot to know which one is best at what. But I can tell you, ChatGPT is always the best general sort of AI. Claude is the best at sounding like a human and coding. Gemini is best at analysis. Grok is the most unhinged and fun one sometimes if you're writing something you just need to vent about. But if you don't know what one's best, they do now have this up here that you can select, like, oh, I'm going to be writing and content. Well, what's the best one? They can say, well, okay, well, here's the standard ones. Here's what they would recommend. And they tell you a little bit about what each one of them is. And luckily, see how when I mouse over them, they tell you about how much tokens. Well, Claude Haiku is an older model, but I like it. And see, it's not even a credit; it's half a credit. This Kimi 2.5 is a really good as well. And look at that, that's not even quite a credit. You can scroll down and they have premium models. So if you scroll over, well, what premium models you want to use, you can see, okay, well, Claude Opus is 2 times the credit. You can see about how much they're charging because everything's about tokens. And in this month, I don't want you to worry about tokens so much because I want you to use it because you need to use it so you'll see how many tokens you're using. Nothing is going to shut off if you go over. The only thing that happens is if you go over like 2 or 3 times what your normal spend is, it'll cut off the premium models. But it's not going to cut off these standard models and you can still use them. So it's best to use it as much as you want so you can see how much you're using it. But again, you can click through. There's, code and technical, research. Like I told you, mentioned how Gemini Google is the analyst. So when I click research and analyst, look, Gemini 3.1 is here. You can go down and see, well, is there a higher end model that might be better? Probably Claude Opus is always going to be on them because it's high. So that gives you a little bit of, if you want to create images. Well, I'm going to say this is probably Gemini Flash Image is the best image generator, or you can use the newer one that's more expensive. Great at creating images. If you already know, hey, I like to use, let's see, we'll say on models, I want to use Anthropic. I'm a Claude fan. They did have Fable. It looks like they took it off. So the newest one they have is Claude Opus 4.8, which is the most expensive model, but it's one of the it's high end. It gets you there. So that's basically what it goes when you're selecting models. You can select what you want and look around and play because it has, like I said, over 72, I think now. And if you look at multipliers, that's just even the more expensive stuff. So just an idea of what that looks like on how fast this moves because as new models come available, they add it. So it's not something you don't have to switch between, like have a GPT and a Claude license. Everything is built within Hatz. And we can go to the next part now. And I'm going to show you some different things in chat as well. So let's do that real quick as well. So some of you I know have seen the demo and things before, but I know a lot of you haven't. Chat and the large language models is one part of it. Another part that makes this so easy to use and why I use it a lot for my research and just random chats is something here called tools. They may be called integrations. So what we do here is when I click tools, and again, I have an auto tool as well, but it's good to show you what this does because I find if you know what this does and you select it, it often does a better job. At least that's in my experience. Jordan, what would you say? Do you like using the auto tool or do you prefer to actually click the tool?
I think I prefer to actually select the tool now. There's some instances where I'll just auto select because it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, I prefer to select and work through it that way.
So if you're just randomly so if you're just randomly chatting and you're not real sure what you're wanting to do or what your end goal is, maybe you have auto tool selected. But if you know exactly what you're looking for, I do think selecting your tools is the best option because it gets less overwhelmed with your questions and it knows exactly what you're asking it to do. So I'm going to go over some of these that you can add. We have one called code execution. That does not mean writing code. I know it since it says code, you're like, oh, I don't want to touch that. What this does, let's see if we get the full description here. It's about creating PDFs. It will create Word, Excel files, things like that. But code execution is really about creating some sort of document for you. Okay. The next is you can integrate Google search. You can do Perplexity, Tavly, and Exa. And I group those all together because what they all really are the same type of things, but different. It's all about research. So everybody knows what Google search is. Perplexity is an actual its own tool that you can buy separate from if you were to buy Claude, you would have to buy Perplexity as well. So Perplexity is basically AI search. It does a great job of searching what's out there. When it comes to LLMs or those large language models, you'll notice that there's a new one that comes out every 3 months, every 3 to 6 months. Well, that code, that model is good from the time they release it and then everything behind it. It doesn't actually have any information from the time they released forward. So if you want any new information, you'll want to add one of the search tools. Perplexity is the one that I would recommend for that because it's going to actually go and see what's new. Otherwise, you could be using something that is 6 months old, a year old, etc. And finally, if you use Tavly and Exa, very similar on what they do. It's just search, but it's much more detailed depending on what you're looking for. All right. Finally, excuse me. Finally, for more research, if you want to crawl like your website or a competitor's website or a site you're looking for some sort of documentation, that's called fire crawl. So some examples of a fire crawl that I've used, sometimes when I need to get my branding or colors or I need to get my words right or my tone right, I will fire crawl Real IT Solutions and I'll say, use the branding that's on realitsolutions.com and the tone. And it will go, it looks at my colors, it looks at my logo, it sees the tone of my website, and it's able to translate what I'm wanting it to do, whether that is, adding my logo and colors to a document or whatever that may be. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. The next I can go over is Hatz Workshop Assistant. This helps you create agents and workflows. I don't know that we'll get to that today, but we are going to get to it this month in one of them, maybe even next week. But it is super handy so that when you're chatting, you can actually build your agents, your workflows, that type of thing. I know Jordan uses it a lot. Is there any quick summary that you'd like to give about this tool, Jordan?
No, I mean, I think, everything we're going over is going to relate into this module. I don't have anything specifically without going into detail, but everything we're talking about here is going to have some sort of handshake inside that workshop. It's going to be useful in there. So
Awesome. So the next thing, we can go over Google Maps. Megan, I think you recently did something in Google Maps that has a use case. Can you share that?
I did for our recycling event. I used that to map out directions for the guys to go pick up everyone's recycling on Friday.
So yeah, and so that was a great one. We're doing the recycling event, like Megan said, she's able to go in, say, hey, we're doing the recycling, make a route, and it calculated the route and kind of the pickup times and things like that. So that was kind of really neat because how much time did that save you, do you think, Megan, instead of having to do it manually?
Hours. And I was also able to tell it like this customer is closing at 2:30, so please keep that in mind when making the route. It was pretty cool.
Awesome. Uh, Microsoft Learn, if you're wanting to learn something in Microsoft, for us as a MSP and IT solutions, this is like a giant thing for us to have actual accurate information. It's not hallucinating, it's telling us. So some of you may be good, some of you not so much. I can tell you for real, as real IT goes, this is a giant one I use all the time. I've never used Google Weather. I don't know, Megan or Jordan, have either one of y'all used Google Weather tool? Just out of curiosity.
I have not.
No, I haven't actually touched that once.
Right. All right. Then we have some connected integrations like Microsoft 365. So what this allows you to do is connect to your Microsoft 365 account securely. So it's much more secure than the standard models because it keeps your tenant inside that wall. So I can manage my Outlook, Teams, OneDrive. It can they're constantly changing things in this and making it better. You can create SharePoint files, you can look through them, you can create Excel, you can open your Excel files, compare them against each other, all kinds of fun stuff within Hatz now. It's really great. I'm going to go through the rest of these kind of quickly, probably just because I don't have any connections, but maybe you guys do. So there's Stripe, Salesforce, Notion, um, Fireflies for those that use AI note taking. You can connect to it. I'm trying to think of what else. Read AI, that's another one that you might have as a note taking type app. Monday is HubSpot. We've connected our HubSpot so that I can see where leads and things like that are. I can create dashboards, lead lists, I can create workflows and stuff from that, connecting that to actual AI because if you've used HubSpot's AI, it's pretty terrible. Um, GitHub is really good if you are starting to code things. You can connect your GitHub, uh, Zapier, however you want to pronounce it. Just kind of kicks tools off automatically, automates things a little bit easier. Um, we've just got Autotask, that's our PSA. So you can kind of see quite a few tools that you can use to connect to different documents. Because the first part of any sort of AI strategy is first your chat. You're doing the simple low hanging fruit that you can get. The next part of getting into your AI journey, your AI development as a company is to start automating things. And the best way to get automated is you start pulling in APIs, you start pulling in data that you use every day so that you can actually create automations. But that is the step once you're fully understand how AI works and you're using it at a high level. As far as the basics on the chat and the actual usage, Megan or Jordan, is there anything you think we should add before I show maybe do some prompting 101?
No, I think
Not
you.
that I can think of. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jordan.
No, you're good. I think you nailed it. It's pretty smooth.
Okay. All right. Before I go into like a prompting 101, does anybody else? I'll just open the chat real quick. Does anybody else have any questions about the prompting section here in Hatz? All right, then I will go ahead. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see. Nope. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go on then, and I'm gonna share a different screen. Yes, I'm gonna go to slides for just a second and then we'll go back and I'll actually show you what some of this looks like. But don't worry, I'm not gonna show too many slides. I'm just a visual learner, and so that's also how I like to teach because I just find it easier. So let me know, Jordan or Megan, if that screen is shared.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so these are some slides I created back for the February Lunch and Learn. So some of you may have seen it, some of you haven't. A lot of people, when they prompt, they give a simple prompt like, I don't know, how do I reduce meetings? Well, that's great and it's going to give you some information, but it's not a great prompt because it's going to make it where you have to prompt a lot. Now, there's all kinds of prompting engineer frameworks out there. I follow my entire feed, whether it's my entire social media feed, no matter what one I'm using, is nothing but AI. Now, I kind of grabbed a whole bunch of them together and made my own, and this is how I've been prompting for the last couple of years, really. And it's called Crafted. And so you want to do a context, or I like to do context, role, audience, format, tone, an explanation of what it's doing, and a deliverable. And is that a lot? Yes, I understand that's a lot. And I'm not telling you, oh, you need to do every one of these all the time. Sometimes now, as good as the models, you can start kind of vague and narrow it down. However, the ones I do like, I think are important. Let me see if this is the right one. What happened? That is not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Sorry. Let's just close this and so that I can show exactly. 1 second. That went way off for some reason. So let's share it this way. All right, here we go. So what's really important when you're prompting that first time is one of the most one is context. So you want to give the AI context. So why you need it, what it's for, who it's for, and if it has any limits. And you want to ask it format. So this is what is the AI doing? Do you want a paragraph? Do you want bullets? How long does it need to be? Is there a platform that you're using it for? Like, is it a PDF document? Is it a table? Is it an Excel file? What is it? And then finally, the next one, the next and most important is a deliverable. So what's the exact task that you're asking for? What do you want it delivered to you? You need to have an include or avoid list. You give it some sort of action verb. So when I prompt, these are sort of the things that I'm looking into. That I'm thinking, well, how am I going to prompt it? Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting prompting it and tweaking it every single time. I want to try to prompt less by prompting a little bit smarter, right? Work smarter, not harder type thing. So let's see what that looks like in action. And I'll show you some cool things. You don't want to see me type. Nobody wants to see me type. I can guarantee you Megan and Jordan don't want to see me type. They see enough of it in Teams. So let's give an example of that bad prompt. How do I reduce meetings? Again, you just heard me. I clicked the microphone. I spoke into it to tell it what to do. That's going to generate. It shouldn't take too long to do it. I got it on a pretty fast model. I say that, and every time I'm in one of these, it takes a while to generate. I think because it knows the more people are watching it, the slower it goes.
Hey, Donald.
Yes.
I think this is a good, it's a good illustration of why it makes sense to give it context, because that's a pretty broad question, right? How do I
Absolutely.
meetings?
Yeah,
the more contextualized you can give the prompt, the faster it's going to return because it knows it doesn't have to search everywhere.
That's a great, yeah, that's a great point. And look, it still has no, and even like I gave it to it, it doesn't know what to do. Like, I'd love to help, but I need more context. So now we can give it the next one. We can give it some context. We would say, my leadership team spends 15 to 20 hours per week in meetings. Many meetings run over time, repeat the same discussions, and end without clear decisions. How can we reduce meeting overload? So now we've got some context, and let's see what this is able to do with a little bit of context. Yeah, see, look, just like what Matt was saying. Let's give it some context. So now it got a whole bunch more and actually usable type stuff. And I mentioned role, audience, format, tone, explain, and I don't necessarily want to go through every single one of those. And I can 100% share this framework if you'd like. I can email it to you. But let's go to the last final prompt with all of those done. Let's see what that would look like. And this time I'm just going to copy and paste something, so I'm not talking forever. But I want to show you what this looks like. And then I'll kind of go over. It says you are an executive business consultant. Again, now we gave it a role. We told it a little bit. We said, okay, we're creating a plan. We gave it a format, an executive summary. We want top 5 recommendations. We give it a tone, practical, direct, no corporate buzzwords. We're telling it what to include, quick wins, long-term improvements, what not to include. Like, I don't want it to recommend hiring staff. I don't want it to recommend expensive software. And I want it to finally, I'm giving it what a deliverable. I need a 30-day action plan. Now, when we generate that, we gave it quite a bit. So it may take a little bit longer than the last one, but not too bad. You can see now it's gave us an executive summary, gave us actual details about what's causing that. It gave us the top 5 recommendations. And look how much easier this is to read as well. It gave us the expected benefits, common mistakes to avoid, and it gave us probably one of the most important things, an actual action plan about what we're going to do about it. But as you're prompting, as you can see just how much, I guess, how better the results you get by giving it more context and telling it what exactly you want. And I could ask Megan, Jordan, or Matt if y'all have any examples of prompting that you like to do and what's changed as you've gone through like your AI journeys and things like that. Is there anything you would like to add about, prompting?
I can say one of the things that I've done is I've asked, sometimes the first thing I do is ask AI to help me craft a prompt. Like, I'm interested in this topic, help me craft a prompt that will give me some meaningful results, and ask me any questions to clarify, and kind of have AI kind of go back and forth with me a little bit to make sure it knows exactly what I want before it really does the task.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hatz does an amazing job with automating this step in particular. It's great to like understand it and kind of move through the context of what you need to be working with. Hatz does such a great job in automating this step in particular. The more details, the better. The quicker it responds. I think just giving it a role is already going to put you in such a higher bracket of response. Totally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that actually leads into the next thing I was going to talk about, because you kind of nailed it on the head. The biggest thing is use AI to learn AI. You can ask AI how to use it. You can say, let's take those tools. I explained some tools earlier. I have Perplexity, Tavly, and X, and I said, they're basically search tools. You can say, what is the difference between Perplexity, Tavlia, and Exa, and how can I use it in my agents and apps and workflows to get better results? So 100%, obviously, it'll misspell stuff, but hopefully it'll understand. That's one of my favorite things about AI is it understands my misspellings and jumbled words very well. But it's going to explain what those tools are. So you don't have to know what that tool is to use it. You can ask And I'm going to explain something real quick while this is doing it, because it's one of the things I really like Hatz over like Claude or GPT, is it tells you what it's doing. So it's finding, it's okay, well, it's using this. Well, so while it's thinking, it's kind of telling you what's called, what's completed, and it's telling you how it's thinking. There's a lot of times while I'm watching, I'll watch this, and if it's going off the wrong track, I'll tell it to stop. So now it sort of tells us a little bit about which one. Oh, look, see, it got it spelled right, about how this is used. So let's see, primary focus. We can see the big picture. Talia, fast structured search. Perplexity is premium natural language answers. It's better for citations if you need something to be cited, which is always a great idea. So you can say it's some AI didn't just hallucinate it. You can go and look to see if it's actually there by telling it, give me citations and sources. EXA, and you can see the difference on EXA. It tells you the best choice for if what your goal is and why. So again, if you're using AI to learn AI, like Matt said, well, I use it to prompt. Maybe you can say, let's try this. Create me a prompt for Claude that helps me reduce meeting time in our organization. Again, that's a broad one. I'm asking it for a prompt that will help me do the specific thing. But you can ask it to help create a prompt that's going to be better. So now all I have to do is copy and paste this back. Or actually, sometimes I might just say, let's say, yeah, you can copy and paste this back with this filled in. Or you can say, okay, I work at, let's see. Use the above prompt with realitsolutions.com as the company, and what might MSP have to help reduce meetings. Again, you're using that memory above to help you create that, so you're not having to copy and paste it. I would say actually copy and pasting and changing these would be the better, but let's see what happens. One of the things you saw subagent work. This is Hatz, now has this. So a lot of times it uses, without even having to grab a tool, it goes and says, okay, I think you want to use this tool. It knew because I said go to realitsolutions.com that I wanted to use the fire crawl. So you don't always have to know what tool or even select that tool like I didn't there. You can see I have tools turned off, but it knows, oh, if I want to use fire crawl because I just told it to go there. That used to not be there. That's only maybe 3 or 4 weeks old. So it helped me create the prompt by giving it that. Again, it still wants more information because it's like it knows it to create something good for you. It knows that it needs actual context. But that's really how chat works. I like making sure that your prompts are well. Is there anything within the chat? Has anybody used it here recently that they may have questions about? I don't see anything. So I guess what we could do is we can talk about how to create your own agent and what an agent actually is. There's multiple ways to create an agent. Let me show you what an agent actually is first so that you'll have an idea about how you might want to use it. So anything that you're going to create, any sort of automation, whether that's an agent, a workflow, or an app, you go to the workshop. Now within workshop, and we're going to talk about agents, and then we'll go to apps and workflows later if we have time today, but most likely won't be today on all of them. But let's go to, I'm going to go to my items. This is where all the stuff that I've created, I'm going to find my voice. You see Donald's voice. I'm going to click edit. I'm going to show you what my voice is and what it does. So I've created a voice that's going to sound just like me, and it's going to tell it all that fun stuff here on what I want it, how I want it to speak. I basically use that entire prompt framework within this. I gave it what technical expertise I have. I gave it how I want it to respond. I give it troubleshooting behavior. I like when I want my answers back or I'm writing, I want it to have, I don't want it to sound like AI. I want it to have a little bit of fun or style to it. So I've added pulp culture references, like Star Wars, football metaphors, things like that. I'm Texan, so I have it some language guidelines I'll always say y'all. I'll say fixing to a lot. But I tell it to try to avoid stereotypes. And I give it examples of what that looks like and what style. That way it knows. So that when I am writing an email, and let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to chat because I created that agent for me a while back. I could go back to chat. Now I can select my agent. Now you see as my agents, I can have all the agents I've created. I can select Donald's voice agent. Now, if I have want to create an email, I can quickly do it here. Let me see. I didn't actually think of anything. Draft an email to Jordan that's thanking him for his AI automation and Power Automate for my daily email briefings. Now, I have Auto Tool turned on. So what's going to happen, you can see it shows Microsoft 365 here. Oh, first it's going to ask me, when do I need this sent? I'm going to say today. I just want to keep it simple. And that's just because my agent is telling me to don't just hallucinate, ask questions if you're unsure. So that's what it did. So what it's doing here is it drafted an email for me. I'll say that's good. Actually, let's do it here. That looks good. Send it to my drafts folder in Outlook. So what that's going to do is I read over it, and now it's going to send that to my drafts folder in Outlook for me to look over again and then click send. Fine. Nope. Or it should. But that should send it over to my drafts folder. Now all I have to do is click send, and it'll send it on. Now it will not send right now. It will not send emails directly from here. That's a security thing. It wants you to just look over it and make sure it's right. And I believe that's the right thing to do. I do prescribe to the human in the loop. You don't want things to automatically send email. You want you want you to have to look at it and make sure that that's right. So this will send it over. Let me see if I can't bring it up. Well, I got other email in there. So, but yes, it did send it over to my drafts folder. And so now all I would have to do is click send. You can also ask it, I can go ahead, I can ask all kinds of different things for my email, but the point was just to show you that, look, it's going to respond more like me, hopefully, warmly, where it says, I genuinely appreciate the time you put into it, things like that. So it doesn't sound just like AI. If I get a best regards email, I know it's AI because nobody in the world ever uses best regards.
Oh, I guess I'll have to stop using that.
Do you? Yeah, right. Yeah. So if you're using AI and it signs off best regards, for sure, Shannon, I know that you probably use something for that. That's funny.
Donald, Nate asked a couple questions in the chat.
Okay, how does it work with administration? Do we have? Yes, you can do it multiple multiple ways. You can have us help you, or you can create an administrator, and you can assign users. You can do a lot of different things within the administration portion of Hats. And so, yeah, you would have an administrator that can assign users, that can say what models people can and can't use, different things like that. It also gives you more ability to look in the back end and see what your usage is. I can show you a little bit about what the usage is. I don't think this account is an administrator, but I do think I have some things an administrator would see. Let's see. So if I go over to workspace, administrator would be able to see the usage, and would be able to look at users and roles and see what each person's usage is. They'd be able to take some actions like reset. Okay, so reset an MFA, send a password link, change a role, delete a user, things like that. So yeah, it looks like I did make this one admin. So yes, an admin, you would have an admin account that you can do things with. As far as what specific users are doing within the platform, the best thing on that is looking at usage. And this will give you your power users, your power builders, the top models they're doing. It gives you a little bit of a trend of how it's being used here, as you can see, what that breakdown looks like. Active tells you how many if you're looking for AI adoption, gives you your active users, so you can say, hey, I got this for 20 users and 8 users are using it, or I got this for 10 users and 8 users, however many users you're using. Shows you how many apps are built, things like that. You see that we're using it a lot for API calls now. We're doing a lot of automations, and we use Hatz for those, which is great. You can kind of gamify things with the leadership board, stuff like that. It also has compliance logs now. We don't have this enabled for this tenant right now, but we can check audit events and things like that. That shows you if an API key is created. This is what's kind of important, because this is API keys is taking your data across somewhere else. So it does give you some compliance logs and things like that. If you do have anything more you need, a lot of times that's a ticket with Hatz and what they can do, but that gives you a pretty good overview about what's going on and how it's being used. Does that answer your question, Nate?
Yes, you can hear me.
Okay, so I see you have another question. Goes, if Derek builds a workflow, does that same workflow become accessible to everyone, or does he need to share it with everyone? That's a great question. It's something we'll probably explain more later, but let's go ahead and I can jump into it now. And then as we teach later on in other classes how to build those, it'll make more sense. But let's just see an item here. Let's click Donald's voice. We can go over to share settings. So I just made this private to myself. If you want if Derek wants to build something and make it, he would say share in my organization. Within your organization, you can create, my mind went blank. You can basically create groups. Like I've got leadership, marketing, technicians, and assign people to groups. So you can share it either to everybody or just to an individual group. Or if you think it's so cool that you want to show everybody in Hatz, you can even share it with the entire Hatz community.
Am I able to force them, I guess? So a couple of the guys, the owners, they can do whatever they want, but like the other guys, I don't want them to hide it. I want them to share everything, no matter what, and require that for them, I guess. Do you get what I'm saying?
I don't think you can do that. I will ask that question, but I don't think you can say everything they build, you want to force share it.
Okay.
What is great, and this is fairly new, is if you did want to share it, you want to make sure that, let's say, Derek builds something. Make sure that, but you need to look at it and you want to be able to make edits on that as well. Just make sure that you allow internal organization to edit this agent. That way, if he's not available or something to that effect, you're able to keep that agent and you're able to edit it going forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me see if I missed any other question. Oh, I see Matt answered some of that too. Okay. I know we're coming towards the end of that hour. Is there any other questions? And I know we just kind of touched the basics today about prompting and chat, but is there any questions that anybody has about that, or has anybody had issues that they want to ask about getting into Hatz? Megan, Jordan, or Matt, do you have anything you would like to add? And we might just close this out for the day.
The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to try stuff. It's all walled off, from the internet, or from the broader internet, I should say. And you can't really break anything, right? Just trying prompts. You can create a workflow, create an agent. If it doesn't work, you don't like it, you can delete it, create a new one. I would say just don't be afraid to get your hands wet, and don't be afraid to ask AI for help if you're having trouble. Because if you're having trouble with something, chances are it's other people have had the same trouble, and it knows how to help you, get around it.
Absolutely. Actually, you mentioned something. I want to give everybody the link to Hatz support just in case they do have questions. You can, of course, ask us or ask AI, but if you do have questions and you're unsure, you can go over to Hatz Help. And down here, it's a support agent. You can ask it questions and it's going to try and help you. And if it can't help you, eventually it gets to a real person. I use that all the time, and it's usually pretty good. All right, I guess the final thing is we're going to do this weekly. We will send out an invite for the next one next week. It's going to be the same time. I'm not sure what day. We might switch days to make sure that everybody has a chance that they may have something that's on a Wednesday. So maybe it might be Tuesday or Thursday. So I'll let you know on what day that's going to be, and I'll send another invite for next week. If you use it, if you have questions, bring those questions. If I don't know the answer, or Jordan or Matt or Megan doesn't know the answer, we'll ask AI and see what happens. I'm all for building things and making this as useful as possible. So bring those questions. Use it as much as you want. Things aren't going to turn off. You're not going to break anything. And good luck. That's all I have left.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.